thoughtful ideas and suggestions for guests and topics.
Great events, programs, and student activities.
All the factors are useful.
Welcome to this week's segment of Dialogue Houston. I'm your host, Lawrence Payne. To our regular viewing audience, welcome. To those joining us for after the first time here for ACC's TV Dialogue Houston, we can be found now every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 a.m. and again at 6 p.m., Saturday afternoons at 3 p.m. And as always, in top of the hour, let me thank you for your thoughtful calls, emails, and text messages concerning previous shows we've aired here on ACC's TV Dialogue Houston, but particularly your great ideas for guest topics and subjects to be covered on upcoming segments of Dialogue Houston. For after all, this is your community affairs, public affairs show now in its 27th season. This actually segment of Dialogue Houston, as you all know, is a special edition. It is in partnership with our wonderful Houston Public Library. This segment is called Living in New Knowledge. Living in New Knowledge. Why living in new knowledge? Because if you don't have one of these, the library card called the Link card, L-I-N-K, Living in New Knowledge, please get one. It is very important that you all have one. It accesses all kinds of great services and resources. You'll be even surprised all the things you can access with your Houston Public Library card. It is easy to get. You can access, as always, free of charge to the great resources. All you need is this card, and you can get this card by going online to houstonlibrary.org, www.houstonlibrary.org, or calling 832-393-1313 or 832-393-1313. It's as simple as that. We want to make sure that everyone avail themselves of it and have it. It comes free. It opens doors and worlds of resources that you wouldn't believe. And it is simply as going online and pulling up Houston Public Library. So this segment, we're going to look at two aspects with our friends from the Houston Public Library. And we're going to do it in a way that allows us to really understand the services provided and the partnerships we have in providing those services. So in the first segment of this show, we're going to be joined by none other than Jack Rothstein, who is the BrainFuse Director, Library Services, Rothstein. I always do it, Jack. I don't care if I even practice it, it still comes out both ways, because I got friends in Houston that say it both ways. So anyway. So glad to have you. And in the second part, we're going to be joined, of course, by Mary Wagoner from the Houston Public Library, who will tell us about the stuff that's going on. But Jack, just welcome. And first of all, as I said before we started, I love the name of your company, BrainFuse. In fact, I'm going to use it for something else, because we all need that BrainFuse today more than anything else. But tell us about the company and tell us about the wonderful things it does in tutoring particularly, because that's really the thing we need.
Well, thank you, Larry, and thank you for having me here today. BrainFuse has been around since 1999. We started off providing online tutoring programs in school districts, primarily under the old No Child Left Behind program. And then in 2006, we created our Help Now service to serve public libraries in their communities. We were in schools before where homework is assigned. It made sense to craft a program to partner with public library systems where many kids go to work on their homework. So we developed and introduced Help Now in 2006. And since then, we've gone from not working with any public libraries to today, we're in over 1,400 libraries across the country in places such as New York Public Library and Washington, D.C. and Chicago and all across the country, large communities, small communities, medium-sized communities. We've been serving Houston since 2012, and we also work with many other library systems in the great state of Texas, including Dallas and San Antonio and Austin and many others.
And this work that you've evolved now over the years of doing it, I'm sure you've adapted and changed and made some. How have you seen it change and progress? And how do you approach it perhaps differently from the way you started? Because I'm always interested in that.
So one of the nice aspects of our service is there are many wonderful resources out there, software tools or databases, video services like Khan Academy, and they can do a great job of providing support right up into the moment where the user's needs deviate from what that tool is designed to do. Well, with our service, you're connecting with a live tutor, a live person. And I think it's worth noting that our 3,000 tutors across the country, they're all here in the US. The vast majority of them are teachers in the classroom, but then they also work with us providing online tutoring support. And so it's a person. So if the child's question or understanding of something is a little bit different, if they're not understanding the way the teacher in the classroom is explaining something to them, sometimes it's just taking the same information and presenting it in a slightly different way that helps the light bulb go off for the child. And that's part of the value that we bring.
I think you just said a very important piece. You always have access to a real live person, a real human being.
Yes, sir.
And that's important because, and it's actually more than access to that human being, to that tutor. It's all the other ancillary things that that tutor can bring to bear to help that particular individual student to really get into the challenges. Because for many times, as we've learned pre-COVID and now definitely in the middle of COVID, this online learning is still something very difficult for many students to grasp.
Sure. One of the great aspects of the service is if I'm a child and I'm struggling, it may be embarrassing or difficult for me to raise my hand in class and say, I don't understand or I don't know. Well, when a child connects with our tutors, they're working in our online classroom, which is a whiteboard and a chat area. So there's a anonymity to the experience that can be quite liberating to help a child who may not want to admit in front of the whole class that they don't understand something. They can share that I don't understand, or I got this wrong in class today. Can you help me? And that's one of the great aspects of the service. You did make a comment yesterday that you can always connect with a live tutor. The live tutor access is 7 days a week, 9 hours a day from 2 p.m. to 11 p.m. Central local time.
Right.
And so I'm fond of saying through the Houston Public Library subscription to this service, access to the tutors is free for all patrons that have a library card. And I'm fond of saying not every family can afford a private tutor. So through the library subscription, there's a tutor on call 7 days a week, 9 hours a day. Anytime I need help, I can connect with that tutor to get help. And even for those families that can't afford a private tutor, maybe I see my tutor on Wednesdays, but it's Monday. I'm stuck now. And so it's a wonderful resource for all members of the community.
Jack, you have just said the piece that I think people have been waiting to hear. You mean I now have my own private tutor?
You do.
I now have access to a tutor. I now have access out of my little home in this apartment, in this one-bedroom apartment that my single mother and my 4 siblings are living in with limited access, but we do have access to computers and to the internet now for so many hours a day. And the thing that I'm struggling with most is trying to learn in this environment, but yet I have my own personal access to a tutor.
From any device that connects to the internet with your Houston Public Library card.
That's what I was about to say, with the help of the Houston Public Library. So there we are. It is one of those gifts that we all have been given that we needed desperately in this environment. For many students that we've talked about on this show in previous segments of Dialogue Houston, who are struggling, who need that, who don't have the resources, and to many families that, to their credit, who are able to come together and actually collectively pool their money and hire tutors for their students, for their families. And share a teacher. I know one group of parents, 3 of them got together from 3 different households, pooled their resources, and hired a full-time teacher to be the teacher for their child to do it remotely. But that's great if one has those resources. Not everyone does. So this great partnership also goes into the area of test prep, does it not? Do y'all provide test prep also?
Yes, sir. So in addition to the access to the live tutors, there's a host of electronic resources that are there to complement the tutoring. There's our Skill Surfer area that provides access to practice tests for all the different academic levels, from You can access a tutor from kindergarten up through adult learners. And there may be a 3rd grade math test, or a 6th grade history test, or a 12th grade trig or physics test. You can take a practice test, and one of the really neat aspects of the service is, once I take a practice test and get my results, if I choose to, I can then connect with a tutor who can access my test results and work with me in a targeted fashion based upon what I got right and what I got wrong. So I can create my own custom learning plan. There's also SAT prep and ACT prep. There's an adult learning center. It's not just for students. There's GED test prep and US citizenship test prep, and access to live tutors for adult learners. There's also access to a skill surfer area that has videos or worksheets and practice sheets that I can use. We understand that different people learn in different ways. If I need help, I'm going straight to a tutor because I'm stuck, I need help. You may be wired differently. You may prefer to watch a video to understand a concept, or you may prefer to try to figure things out on your own first. But with all of these aspects of our service, I can always ultimately connect with a tutor to get help. There's also a writing lab. I can submit a draft of a paper that I'm working on, and within 12 to 24 hours, my paper will be critiqued and sent back with feedback and comments. There's a lot here.
Jack, this is a lifesaver for many. Once the word gets out totally to everyone in our community, it is such a great resource, such a great aid to many families and students who are struggling. Particularly, I know I've heard from parents, and we've talked about it on this show with other partners, who have been forced to learn how to be that teacher, to be that tutor, to be that mentor, to do homework, and to help the studies cycle of their student, of their child. And be honest, as they said, I don't have a clue. I don't have a clue of what I'm doing. I don't know how to do it. I feel very inadequate. I know that I'm not helping my child as he or she needs to be helped. But now I have the tool and resource to do that through BrainFuse, through the relationship with the Houston Public Library. And again, I'm going to beat this because everybody needs to. If you haven't gotten one and you don't have one, you have to get the card, because the card gives you access to all those resources and many, many more. But particularly in this need now, where we are in schooling and education and virtual learning, this BrainFuse piece is a very important piece. Jack, we're out of time for this segment. I hate to kind of cut this off, because I'm sure you could go on with all kinds of great things that this does. But BrainFuse, please look them up, go to their website. But now you know that you can access them right here in Houston, Texas, through your own Houston Public Library, by having that library card that we've talked about many times on this show, how important it is for everyone to have one. Jack, we're going to follow with you in future segments. I want to touch on something else that I want to have a conversation with you about in a larger context. So I'll be following up with you. But thank you very much for being with us, and thank you all the work you and BrainFuse does together. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, we're going to take a small pause and break. We're going to come back with our good friend Mary Wagoner from Houston Public Library to kind of pull all this together for us and talk about some great stuff that she's involved in and going forward with the Houston Public Library. And I got a comment that I kind of told somebody that Mary was going to be back on, and they said the first question they had, Mary, is the summer reading program over? I didn't meet my goal. I said, okay, we'll talk to Mary about that. So we'll come back. So please stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Thank you.
A natural disaster may force you to evacuate, and the coronavirus could impact your emergency plans. So take steps now to help your family and community prepare. Keep a supply kit stocked with cloth face coverings, disinfecting supplies, and hand sanitizers. Check with local officials about what shelter spaces will be open during quarantine efforts. And remember to review the CDC's guidelines with the whole family. Disasters won't wait. Neither should you. Visit ready.gov/plan to make a plan today.
Things could be stranger, but I don't know how. I'm going through changes, through all of the strangeness. I'm going through changes now.
Houston Community College is safe, clean, and open for learning. We're sanitizing our classrooms and reducing class sizes so you can feel good when you come back. Register now at hccs.edu/college your way.
Welcome back to this week's segment of Dialogue Houston. If you're with us for the first part of the show, you know, I had a great conversation with our friend Jack from BrainFuse. And Mary's going to tell us a little bit more about the relationship with BrainFuse and Houston Public Library, because you can access it by having a library card, which is wonderful. And we're going to talk with Mary about other aspects of our great work that she's doing. Just a reminder, Mary Wagoner is the youth advocate for the Houston Public Library, and we're always glad to have her on because she brings such a wealth of information. So welcome, Mary. How are you?
I'm great, Larry. Thank you for inviting me back.
That was a great piece on this BrainFuse thing. So before we get into other things that I want you to share with us, tell us about the connection with BrainFuse and HPL.
HPL has offered BrainFuse since 2012. We like it because it's online tutoring for math, science, English, and social studies. And it goes all the way up from K through 2, where there's basic math and English, all the way up to early introductory college level. One of the things that's very important to us about BrainFuse is that the person who's being tutored can select the language in which they want the tutoring session to be held. So it can be held in Spanish or English or French. So that's very important. Then they just simply go in, choose the subject, choose the grade level, and they're matched with the appropriate tutor at that time. The other lovely thing about it is that as the student progresses academically throughout their academic career, BrainFuse progresses with them. So by the time you get to high school, you have AP Physics, AP Math, AP Chemistry, Biology. So if you're inclined toward that, that's great as well. But every level has he mentioned the skill surfer and the practice test.
Right.
What was not mentioned was the STAR practice test.
Oh, yes.
We all know that students need to pass that test. It's, you know, it's very important to the school.
In Texas, yes, indeed.
Yes, indeed. So that those practice tests are there at every grade level as well. And so once you go in and you can ask for that practice test, you can go into your tutoring session. It's 20 minutes. You have an unlimited number of sessions, so you can go in as many times as you want or as many times as it takes for you to understand what is being shared. So it's not just someone giving a student an answer. That's not the goal of this program. The goal of this program is that the student is tutored to the level where the student at any time in the future can know the process of how they arrived at that answer. Because that's what gets you through life, is getting learning those critical thinking skills and having somebody share, this is the path toward solving.
And getting that feedback from another human being.
Exactly. And it could be writing or it could be math. It doesn't really matter, but that feedback is so essential.
Well, you know, you touched on that. And so BrainFuse is a great resource, has been with us for a while through HPL, accessing by having your library card.
Yes.
Which leads me into, this is National Library Card Month, is it not? How appropriate.
Yes, it is. Thank you for sharing the card.
So, you know, this is it. I mean, but we've said this on other segments we've done together and other segments we've done here with HPL in this special edition of Living in New Knowledge. But this little card really has, people would be amazed at the resources available through this vehicle.
That little card can take you so many places. that little card, and it's so easy to apply for it. Go to houstonlibrary.org. At the top left of the website, it's Get My Link card.
Yep.
And you go online. It takes 5 minutes, and guess what? You now have access to hundreds of online learning resources. Not just a few, hundreds
Right.
of online learning resources.
Someone called me this morning when I told them through an email that you were going to be on the show this week. They
Yes.
asked this one important question, and I had to smile. I said, okay,
Okay.
I'll ask her, because they really enjoyed it, but they didn't do as well as they have done in summers past. Is the
Mhm.
summer reading program over?
Yes, it is. However,
Okay, however.
if they were reading, they can still go in and backlog the reading.
Okay.
that they did.
Okay.
So we know that, it gets crunch time toward the end of the summer. Parents are shopping for supplies, or, maybe having to buy a laptop or something. And now, summer's over, but they can go in and backlog that reading so that they can
All
earn
right.
that free book.
Good.
So we
So they
encourage.
set a goal for themselves every summer, and they said they hadn't quite reached their goal yet this summer. So they
Right.
were.
Well, we encourage them to do better next time. And there's,
There we go.
we'll
Well,
also
well,
have
it-
seasons readings in December.
You're correct. Well, it is back to school time, as you mentioned, and
Yes.
back to school resources. And we have a lot of great back to school resources,
Mhm.
including a new kids catalog, which we've been looking forward to. Tell us about that.
I love it.
Yes.
It's bright, it's colorful, it's icons, so okay, I can go in and search alphabetically. Oh, I just want to look at animals. Okay, here's some books about animals. Or I'm interested in the reading list. And so I'm going to go in and I'm going to read all the Caldecott books that I can. And so I find that reading list, or Pure Belpre Award, or, Coretta Scott King Award winning books.
Right.
We want to be sure that those reading lists are up there. And the beauty of our kids catalog is that often teachers will assign students reading by Lexile level. And many parents and students don't know, well, what Lexile level is this book? And our catalog does tell them that.
Okay.
Yes. So
So it matches
one of-
that. Yeah.
Exactly. So they match up with what's being recommended. So the kids catalog is very exciting. It's been a long time in the making.
Yeah, you
So-
said it was coming. That's why I thought when you said the other day it was coming out. So I said,
Yeah.
yes, make sure we touch on that.
Yeah, it's beautiful. We also have a slightly new page. We've done, we now have a parent and homeschool resources page. And what we've learned with COVID is now that most parents are now schooling at home, whether they're homeschoolers or not. They're schooling
Right.
at home.
Right.
And so there are some tips that can be shared from that homeschooling environment, and some tips also that the school districts are sharing with students
Okay.
on how to create that learning environment where the student can succeed. Having that designated space to learn, setting a schedule for learning, trying to minimize distractions for learning. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of tips on this website that we can take you to. So we encourage all of our parents to check that out, because it may make a big difference. If you have not been schooling from home or homeschooling before, it's important to know how to set up that environment where your child will be successful.
All right. So before we run out of time, anything else you want to make sure we get in that's coming up for this fall season?
Yes, yes, yes. I want you to know that we have Britannica Online, we have reading lists, we have Academic Search Complete, which is full text magazine articles. We have Opposing Viewpoints. So if you're trying to see debate, if you're in debate, that's a great resource. We have grammar, punctuality, and spelling. We have HPL Paperbook Classics. So if you were assigned a reading list that has fiction or nonfiction, and just know that you can check out ebooks. We have tons and tons of ebooks. We have even graphic novels and comics that you can check out online. So the world has expanded where all you have to do is come online and we can take you so many places, Larry. We will link you to the world.
All right. It is, as we said, and we're not kidding, it is your link to the world. It is your opportunity virtually to really access. And I spent some time a while back before COVID and haven't done since COVID. So I could familiarize myself. Spent almost a day just going through the various stuff and things you can do. I can tell you it's amazing, but it all starts, as we said, I've got to end with this where I started, National Library Card Month. It all starts with this. Right?
Yes.
That little card. And if you don't have one, and I'm finding that more and more people are getting one, but I also have found people that hadn't had one, or I found people that had one for their kids, but not for themselves as the adults. And now, because of COVID, everybody wants to go, because now we're all confined and can use the resources in more ways than one. So it's really been a great growth process. All right, Mary, I'm gonna give you a closing half second. Tell us something and we gotta go.
All right, so any resident of the state of Texas can get a MyLink card. Please go to www.houstonlibrary.org.
All right, there it is. And you heard it from the champion of it all. Thanks, Mary. Appreciate it very much, as always.
Thank you, Larry.
We're going to get out of here. And of course, I just have to remind everybody, because the season that we're in, if you haven't registered to vote, do so. You have only a short period of time coming up. Early voting is just around the corner. Everybody says, well, it's not till October. That's around the corner, the way things move in society today. Early voting is from October 13th to October 30th, 17 days of in-person voting, and also vote by mail, by ballot. It is America's future at stake, your future at stake. It is really just a time to understand your role, as I said earlier, of what democracy really is and what citizenship means. No more than that. It's really not anything deeper than that, as a full understanding of who and what you are as a citizen and who you are living in a democratic society and what all goes with that, what all that entails. You got to get out of here to tell me so. Until we see you again, until next week, until we come together for Dialogue Houston, make sure you stay well and be safe. And until then, peace, power, and love.